He slept on a factory floor. He worked almost 22 hours a day. At one point, he didn't even have enough money to pay his own rent. And this happened after he had already become a millionaire. Most people would walk away. He didn't. Why would anyone choose a life like this? Why give up sleep, comfort, and even a normal home life? The answer isn't as simple as working hard. This isn't a story about luck. It isn't a story about talent alone. It's a story about a work ethic so extreme that most people would never choose it. A work ethic built on pain, purpose, and refusing to quit. Today we'll look at where that work ethic came from, what it gave him, and what it took away. Because every success has a price. This one was very high. Picture a factory at 2 in the morning. The machines are still running. Most people have gone home, but one man is still there. He isn't watching the clock. He's looking for the next problem to solve. That scene happened again and again for years. That factory floor wasn't just a place to work. It was the place where one of the hardest years of his life began. And that's where our story starts. That man was Elon Musk. You've probably heard his name. He helped build Tesla into one of the world's best-known electric car companies. He also founded SpaceX, a company building rockets. Both companies came close to failing, more than once. Most founders never face that level of danger even a single time in their whole career. Here's the real question hiding inside this whole story. What if pain isn't something you avoid on your way to greatness? What if pain is actually the cost of it, paid in full, with no discount? Most people want comfort, a steady job, a predictable life, weekends off, and evenings free. That is a completely reasonable thing to want. Nothing wrong with choosing comfort at all. But comfort and world-changing work rarely go together. You can have one, mostly. Or you can chase the other, fully. Musk chose the second path, again and again, even when it nearly broke him. This is the story of what that choice actually looked like, up close. Think about your own daily life for a moment. Honestly, without judging yourself. How much of your day is spent protecting comfort, without even noticing you're doing it? A comfortable schedule, a safe routine, a predictable, familiar way through each ordinary day. None of that is wrong. Most people, most days, need exactly that kind of stability. But this story isn't about most people, or most ordinary days. It's about someone who, again and again, chose discomfort on purpose, believing it led somewhere important. You may not agree with every choice he made, but the pattern is worth noticing. Because underneath the extreme hours is a simple, uncomfortable question, worth asking yourself honestly. What are you actually willing to give up for something you believe truly matters? Keep that question in mind, because before we can understand the long hours, we need to understand the purpose behind them. So where did that purpose come from? It started long before Tesla or SpaceX. When he was young, Musk thought about questions that many people never asked. Not just how can I make money? He wanted to know, what makes life worth living? He came to believe life can't only be about solving one small problem after another. Fixing one thing, then the next thing, then the next, forever, with no bigger picture in sight. He believed people also need something that inspires them, something bigger than daily survival. He often pointed to an old example, the Apollo missions, when humans first reached the moon. For a moment, an entire planet looked up together and felt proud to be human. That kind of purpose, he believed, is worth chasing, even at a very high personal cost. This search for purpose became the real engine behind those brutal 22-hour days. Not a simple ego. Not only the desire to be rich or famous or admired, a genuine, driven need to build something that mattered, on a scale larger than himself. Here is an uncomfortable truth worth sitting with, honestly for a moment. Most people choose a quieter life. That isn't a weakness. It's simply a different choice. Comfort isn't weakness. It's simply a different choice, with a different cost attached to it. But if you truly want to build something world-changing, comfort is rarely part of the deal. You can't have the safe, easy version of a world-changing life. It doesn't really exist. The brutal hours were never really about hours deep down. They were about a person who found something he believed was worth almost any price. When your purpose is clear, sacrifice feels different. It still hurts. But now you know why you're doing it. Not a fair trade exactly, but a trade he was fully willing to make. There's a well-known moment where Musk described starting a company in plain, honest terms. He compared the experience to something painful and frightening, not something glamorous or easy at all. It wasn't fun. It wasn't easy. He described it as something closer to real suffering, mixed together with real, deep meaning. That honesty matters here. This isn't a story that pretends hard work always feels good. Most days, by his own account, it clearly didn't feel good at all. But he kept choosing it anyway, day after day, because the purpose felt bigger than the pain. This is an important distinction, worth holding on to carefully as we continue. Loving your work every single moment isn't the same thing as finding it meaningful. Plenty of deeply meaningful work feels heavy, exhausting, and genuinely unpleasant, especially in the hardest moments. The purpose doesn't remove the pain. It simply makes the pain feel worth carrying, somehow. That is very different from the popular idea that passion always feels light, easy, and joyful. The real purpose, in this story, often looked much more like endurance than joy. Understanding that difference changes how we should think about the brutal hours that follow. Every sacrifice in this story has a clear, specific price attached to it. Sleep, time with family and friends. Simple, ordinary days without pressure or worry. None of these were given up carelessly, or without real cost to him personally. They were traded, deliberately, again and again, for something he believed mattered more. That word sacrifice sounds heavy for a reason. It is meant to sound heavy. It isn't a small word for a small decision. It describes something genuinely difficult to give up. It's easy to talk about purpose. It's much harder to live it. And in 2008, that belief faced its biggest test. That test came in 2008, and it almost ended everything. In 2008, both Tesla and SpaceX were close to collapsing. At the very same time, money was running out fast. Investors were nervous. Failure felt close enough to touch. Every week mattered. One wrong decision could end both companies. Musk put nearly all his remaining personal money directly into keeping Tesla alive. At one point, he even borrowed money from friends, just to cover his own rent. Think about that for a moment. A man who had built million-dollar companies still needed help paying his rent. This wasn't a calculated low-risk business move. It was a total, complete commitment, with real personal danger attached. Years later, during a difficult period of car production, he slept at the factory again. Not for one night, for weeks, on and off, refusing to leave the production line unattended. He wanted to see every problem himself, up close, instead of only hearing reports about it. There's another detail from this period worth remembering, about where the money actually went. Instead of spending heavily on advertising, Tesla spent its money on research and manufacturing instead. The belief was simple. If the product is good enough, it becomes its own advertising. A far better product speaks louder than any commercial ever could. This is what people sometimes call focusing on signals and ignoring noise. The signal is the real product quality. The noise is everything loud but ultimately empty. One more small, strange detail shows a lighter side of all this pressure. During a rocket launch, the team once sent a simple wheel of cheese into space. A playful, slightly ridiculous tribute, tucked inside an enormously serious, high-pressure project. Even under total pressure, there was still room for a small joke. a small moment of fun. That detail matters more than it first seems. Total commitment doesn't always mean total misery, every second. Sometimes, it means finding small, human moments, even inside an incredibly hard, demanding chapter of life. Looking back today, it's easy to misunderstand what really happened. Looking back, it's easy to say, of course Tesla survived, of course SpaceX succeeded. But no one knew that at the time. Every decision was made without knowing what would happen next. Most people would have protected what they had left. Musk made a different choice. He put almost everything back into the companies because he believed they still had a future. Was it risky? Absolutely. Could everything have failed? Yes. That's what made the decision so difficult. Today, we remember the success. Back then, all anyone could see was the risk. The same way of thinking shaped another important decision. Most struggling companies under pressure spend heavily on marketing to attract new customers fast. Tesla did the opposite, betting almost everything on making the product itself dramatically better. Not just a little better than other cars, better in a way people could clearly see and feel. That kind of quality doesn't happen by accident. It takes time, focus, and a lot of hard work. It happens when quality itself becomes the actual priority, above nearly everything else competing for attention. This belief, that real quality sells itself, guided many of the hardest decisions during this period. All of these moments lead to one simple idea. Looking at all of this, one lesson becomes clear. Building something important requires a level of commitment most people never experience. There is no easy version of this journey. At some point, real commitment requires real sacrifice. You can't give half your effort and expect the same result as someone who gives everything. When someone always keeps a way out, they rarely give their best effort. This is where the word brutal stops being only about hours and starts meaning something deeper. It isn't only about how many hours you work in a single day. It's about total commitment of self, money, time, comfort, sleep, almost everything you have. Musk risked his own money, more than once, when it would have been far safer not to. He slept in the same building as the machines, instead of resting safely at home. He chose brutal honesty about failure and risk, instead of comfortable, reassuring silence. Each of these choices points to the exact same underlying truth. Real commitment is not something you change every time things become difficult. It means choosing to continue, even when the situation becomes uncomfortable. This doesn't mean everyone should risk everything they own, on every single dream they ever have. Most goals don't require this level of sacrifice, and that's okay. But if you're chasing something truly enormous, halfway commitment usually isn't enough to get you there. The mountain doesn't care how comfortable you'd prefer the climb to feel. At some point, on the way to something huge, you either go all in or you quietly turn back. There is rarely a comfortable, safe middle path, all the way to the very top. This is uncomfortable to hear, especially in a world that often promises easy shortcuts. Many messages around us suggest success can arrive quietly, without real cost, if you just find the right trick. This story offers a very different, much less comfortable message instead. Some things worth building simply demand everything you have, for a long, uncertain stretch of time. Not forever necessarily, but for long enough that it genuinely deeply hurts along the way. Recognizing this early can actually save you from a painful kind of confusion later on. If you commit halfway and expect full results, disappointment becomes almost impossible to avoid. Understanding the true size of the commitment before you begin is its own form of honesty. It won't make the climb painless, but it will make the pain make sense at least. This is also where persistence quietly enters the picture, alongside full commitment. Full commitment gets you started. Persistence is what keeps you moving, long after the excitement fades. Many people can commit fully for one hard week, or even one hard month. Far fewer can persist through year after year of the same heavy pressure and uncertainty. That kind of long persistence rarely feels dramatic, day to day, from the inside. Most of the time, it simply means showing up again, even on days when you don't feel ready. But the question is, how can we apply this idea without copying the extreme parts? So what can we learn from this story? The answer is not working 22 hours a day. Please don't try to copy that part exactly. You need to understand the difference between comfort and commitment. Here are 3 simple lessons we can take from this story. First, focus on signal, not noise. Ask yourself, is this action really improving my skill or my result? Or is it just easy to do, but not truly important? Cut the noise. Protect your time and energy for the signal that truly matters. Second, seek out honest criticism, instead of quietly avoiding it. Musk has often said that honest feedback from trusted people is extremely valuable, even when it hurts. Most people avoid criticism because it hurts, at least for a moment. But criticism, the honest kind, is often the fastest way to become less wrong. Faster. Find people who will tell you the truth, even when it's uncomfortable to hear. Third, make your work dramatically better, not just slightly better than before. A small improvement rarely convinces anyone to change their mind or their habits. A big improvement is much harder for people to ignore. Focus on what matters. Listen to honest feedback. Keep improving what you create. Simple to say, genuinely hard to practice, especially on your busiest, most tired days. But this is the quiet, ordinary engine behind most truly brutal work ethics. Let's take a moment to make each lesson a bit more concrete. Look at your calendar from this past week. Honestly, for just a moment. How much of your time went toward things that truly mattered? How much went toward things that were simply easy? Be honest with that number, even if it feels a little uncomfortable to admit. Now think about the last time someone gave you hard, honest feedback about your work. Did you truly listen, or did you quietly explain it away and move on unchanged? Seeking real criticism means sometimes sitting with an uncomfortable truth, instead of defending yourself immediately. Finally, think about something you've built, or made, or offered to other people recently. Is it simply okay? Or is it genuinely, clearly better than the obvious alternatives around it? If it's only slightly better, there is real room left to push further and improve it. These 3 questions, asked honestly and often, quietly build the same kind of ethic we've been exploring. None of them require 22-hour days or sleeping anywhere near a factory floor. They simply require honesty, repeated often, about where your time and energy actually go. Small changes, repeated every day, can slowly move you closer to this standard. Let's go back to that factory floor one final time. At first, it looked like only suffering, long hours, little sleep, almost no comfort. But now, we can see what was happening underneath all of that. It wasn't about suffering just to suffer. It was the price of a purpose he truly believed in. Musk has said that this way of living is not healthy, and it really hurts. He hasn't tried to make the sacrifice sound easy, or glamorous, or simple. He's been honest that it comes with a real, heavy personal cost, every single time. And still, his advice to others is strikingly simple. Don't quit, unless something forces you to. Don't quit just because it's hard. Quit only if you're forced to, or if you learn you were wrong. That's a very different standard than most people quietly hold themselves to. Many people quit when something starts to feel difficult. Heart alone was never the signal to stop, in this particular story. The real signal to stop was being forced to, by circumstances truly outside your control, or discovering honestly that the direction itself was wrong from the very start. That distinction matters enormously, especially on the days when quitting feels tempting and easy. Feeling tired isn't the same thing as being wrong. Feeling scared isn't proof of failure. This is the quiet core of persistence, stripped down to its simplest, most honest form. Keep going, unless the road itself is wrong, or the door is truly closed. That single filter, applied honestly, changes how most people would choose to quit or keep climbing. Before we finish, let's remember the journey one more time. He slept on the floor, chasing something bigger than comfort. The hours were never really the point. Meaning was. In 2008, he risked nearly everything he had. Not once, but twice. He chose a far better product over louder, easier advertising. He learned commitment isn't partial. It's all in. Or it's not really in at all. And he keeps going, unless truly forced to stop or proven wrong. Let's remember today's key words. One more time. Slowly. Sacrifice. Giving up comfort now for something bigger later. Purpose. A reason worth carrying real pain for. Commit. Choosing to give your full effort to something important. Signal. What truly matters and deserves your full attention. Quality. Making something dramatically better, not just slightly better. Criticism. Honest feedback that helps you improve, even when it stings. Persist. Continuing even when the journey becomes difficult. Sacrifice. Purpose. Commit. Signal. Quality. Criticism. Persist. The factory floor was never really the point. It was simply the place where the sacrifice happened. If this story made you think about your own goals, we would love to hear your thoughts. What is something important enough that you are willing to work hard for it? Share your answer in the comments, and let's learn from each other's stories.